Sir, class will be on.
Okay. Right. So in the last class, what were we discussing about? We were discussing about what is constitution, okay, and what are the functions of the constitution. What is constitution? What are the functions of the constitution? And we also discussed various aspects, okay, like terminology like what is democracy, what is state, okay, and all the very important basics have been covered in the last class. Okay, so essentially tell me, what is constitution? It is the supreme law of the land which explains what is how the state is formed and what is the relationship between the people and state. Okay, so it means this particular definition describes the very purpose of the constitution. Constitution has been established to achieve a particular purpose. Whose purpose is this? People's purpose. It is a public purpose. Okay, because if we want to live the life the way we want, if we want to come up in the life, if we want to realize our real potential in the life, we require to have a particular political, social and economic conditions in the society. Particular social, economic and political conditions in the society. Politically, we must be free to choose our own form of government. Politically, we must be free whatever we want to speak against the government or in favor of government. We must be fearless as far as the expression of our opinion is concerned. That is what about political atmosphere. Got my point? Socially, you must not be having any disability, having access to any institution. For example, if you want to go to an hospital, nobody shall be inquiring about your caste, religion, race, sex and other aspects. Okay, and if you want to have health, education, okay, recreation, spirituality, these are all essential things in the life, right? Yes or no? So in all these matters, nobody shall be suffering any disability, shall not be suffering any discrimination. Okay, and at the same time, economically, every person must be able to have a decent livelihood according to his matching potential. According to his matching potential. So nobody shall be discriminated on the basis of any other irrational factors. Okay, if you don't have the competency, you will not be recruited. But just because you belong to a particular caste or religion, it shall not be acting as disabling factor. So that's why constitution will facilitate all these kind of conditions for the individual in the life, so that he can lead the life and live the life in a right manner. Okay, so ultimately the aim of the constitution to bring you dignity. What is that? Dignity. So dignity is very, very important. When you will achieve the dignity? Only when all your requirements are achieved. Only when all your requirements are fulfilled. Only at that point of time you will get the dignity. So it means everybody should be autonomous. Everybody should be independent. Everybody is able to exercise his own choice in the life. Then only the person will be able to get the dignity. Got my point? So this is what the ultimate aim of the constitution. Got my point? So constitution has been made for a particular purpose. Okay, right. So we understood various dimensions here in the last class. Okay, if you want to go through the video again, in the app there is a video, you can go through again. Okay, right. Next, so let us have a discussion on, okay, what are the salient features of the constitution. Salient features. So these are very significant features. These features identify the Indian constitution as a unique constitution. Okay, so the features which make the constitution unique, the features which make the constitution unique, such features are nothing but salient features. Okay, right. So basically, if we try to look at various features, first of all, the Indian constitution is written constitution. What is that? Indian constitution is what? Written constitution. Okay. Why we identify written constitution is an important feature? Got my point? Why the written feature of the constitution is that important feature? Got my point? The reason is, if something is written, that will not giving any scope for any subjectivity, any kind of subjectivity. Subjectivity means what? Applying your opinions, views and ideas and beliefs. That is called as subjectivity. For example, if I ask you, do you like non-vegetarian food? Not everybody may be accepting, because he is having his own belief system, his own preferences and choices. That's why when something is written, it does not give rise to any individual opinion. So that there will be no confusion, no conflict. That's why written constitution is very, very important feature. Got my point? Because when anything is clearly written, that will not be giving any scope for the personal interpretation. That is why written constitution is an important feature. Got my point? Moreover, actually I told you in the last class itself, constitution, it appears to be political document. But it actually is, what is that? Social document. Got my point? There is a political machinery in the country, how to bring change in the lives of the people, But in fact, the constitution is very purposeful to bring social and economic transformation of the society. Because people will trust the political system, people will follow the constitution only when the constitution is able to drive the change in the lives of the people. Only it is able to drive the change. Got my point? Without driving the change, constitution will become purposeless. So that's why what must be the aims and objectives of this constitution are well written in the constitution. They are clearly written. What this constitution tries to achieve, these are well written in the constitution. Okay? And one more important thing, actually India has a very, very huge diversity. Okay? Diversity means what? When the population is heterogeneous. What is that? When the population is heterogeneous. It means different sections of population, different religions, different language people, and different caste and different genders are actually coexisting together. They are living together. Okay, that's why the population is very diverse. And when the population is very diverse, what is another important consequence is, everybody is having different requirement of the life. Not all the people are having same opinions, same aspirations. Every community or every person is having uniqueness regarding his aspirations, regarding his goals and ambitions in the life. Okay, their cultural preferences are different. Language preferences are different. Religious preferences are different. Definitely, the single document has to ensure what is that? Yesterday I told you, the very important function of the constitution is what? Coordination. It has to coordinate all the different kinds of people in the country. So it is very, very important function. What is that? Coordination function. What is coordination? Coordination function is something where the government has to see that, the constitution has to see that there must not be conflicts among the people. They must be coexisting together despite they are having different opinions and different values. That particular thing is facilitated by written constitution. It is clearly written what are the rights the people are having, what are the powers of the government, what are the limitations on your powers. When everything is written, that will be helping the society to progress. Okay, that will be helping in the society to progress. And moreover, Written constitution is also very much important because we have two levels of governments actually. We have governments at two levels. We have the governments at two levels. What are the governments? Union government at the union level, and there is a state government at the regional level. Okay, state government and central government. Okay, when two governments are there and the requirement of the two governments are being satisfied by the written constitution, because both governments have to function in their own spheres. One government is not dependent on the other government. Central government is having its own individual existence. State government is also having its individual existence. Got my point? Recently in Telangana, elections were conducted. Congress party came into power. And this government will be functioning independently. It does not take the powers from the central government. It takes the powers from constitution. Are you able to understand? This government does not take the powers from central government. It takes the powers from the constitution itself. In other words, the state government is not subordinate to the central government. The state government is not subordinate to the central government. In the recent times, you might have seen KCR was not visiting airport when he was chief minister to receive prime minister. Do you know this? Okay. But whether KCR was put to any action was taken on KCR? No, because you are elected by the people, I am also elected by the people. Got my point? So hence you can see the independent governments at two levels. So these two governments will take the powers from the same constitution. That's why everything is clearly written. What are the powers of the state government? What are the powers of the central government? These are clearly written in the constitution. That's why written constitution is very, very important. Got my point? And one more important thing, our constitution is the largest written constitution. Largest written constitution. Our constitution is the largest written constitution. So it means if you compare the global constitutions of different countries, you can see the size of the constitution of India is larger than any other constitution. Okay, for example, if you try to look at American constitution, it is having almost all the words of 4,500 to 5,000 words are there in American constitution. But you come to Indian constitution, how many words are there? You know, more than 2.5 lakh words are there in the constitution of India. Got my point? Why this size is there? Why this much bigger size for the Indian constitution? Because since the social conditions are very dynamic, because in India, you understand, managing this level of population is very, very big task. We generally compare India with other countries. America is good, New Zealand, UK, these are all well-governed countries. But you understand, the country's population is unmanageable population. But despite this much of population, we are able to see very normal conditions without any abnormality. That is what the greatness of the constitution. That is what the greatness of the constitution. So why we see this kind of larger constitution, largest size? Because if you try to look at the size of the constitution, how many parts we have? 22 parts. These 22 parts are nothing but numbered parts. 22 numbered parts. 22 numbered means what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so on and so forth till 22. Got my point? But if you try to take the total number of parts is how many? 25 parts. Okay? Got my point? Total number of parts. How can I count the total number of parts? If I count the subparts in the constitution. What is that? Subparts in the constitution. The 25, we can arrive at the term that is 25. Got my point? For example, we have part 4 of the constitution which talks about directive principles of state policy. Okay? Part 5 of the constitution, that is union government. But in between we have part, what is that? 4A. Part 4A. This is called as subpart. This is called as subpart. This is part and this is subpart because it is part 4A. Got my point? If you count these subparts, the total number of parts will be 25. Okay, if you count only numbered parts, that is the total number of parts will be 22. Got my point? Right? And how many articles we have? How many articles we have? We have how many articles? 395. Okay, these are nothing but, what is that? Numbered parts. 395 are numbered parts. And total number of articles are, 395 numbered articles. Total number of articles is 466. Total number of articles is 466. Got my point? So how do you arrive at 466? Yesterday I told you. How do you count this 466? If you count clauses and subclauses, then you will get the count called 466. Got my point? So for example, article 19 class 1, subclass A, subclass B, subclass C, subclass D. In this way you count every article, the number would be 466. Okay, I told you how to pronounce the article. For example, article 19, okay, any numerical or number which is adjacent to this article 19 is called as class. Okay, suppose article 19 class 1, okay, and any numerical or number just beside this class is called as subclass. This is what class, this is what subclass. This is how you need to understand the article. Okay, right. So why the Indian Constitution is larger? Because it is addressing the requirement of every community. It is addressing the requirement of every community. Because I told you, country is heterogeneous. Every section of population is having differential requirement. For example, you just take the example, SCs and STs are there, especially SCs. They suffer from lot of evil practices in the society. For example, untouchability. They suffer from untouchability. Got my point? You take minorities. Minorities suffer from the religious domination by the majority over the minorities. Got my point? And you can see any other section. For example, women. Women are suffering from domestic violence. Women are suffering from domestic violence and patriarchy. What is that? Patriarchy. What is the meaning of patriarchy?
Domination of.
Yes. Domination of the values. Okay, the domination of the domination by the men over the women. Okay, the rules and regulations in the society are framed by the men and imposed on the women. Men decide how the women should be. Men decide how women should be. That is nothing but patriarchy. So that's why women, if they have to come up in the life, they need to get a good supporting environment in the country. That's why women must also be given with the special provisions in the Constitution. You are able to understand? So every community is being addressed by the Constitution. Naturally, the size of the Constitution will be high. Got my point? Not only this, we not only identify the concerns of the SCs but also STs. For the STs also there are special provisions. For example, in the states like Assam, Tripura, Meghalaya and Mizoram, those states are having autonomous regions for the tribals. Autonomous regions for the tribals. Autonomous regions means what? Without the interference of the government, they are able to govern themselves. Why? Because why they are given this special provision? The reason is, actually, if you ask what is your religion, I will give you my religion. I will tell you my religion. But if you ask a tribal people, the tribal population in the northeastern region, you ask them what is your religion, they can't say their religion because they are neither Hindu nor Muslims nor Christians. Got my point? Actually, in 1927, I will discuss the evolution of the Constitution. There was a Simon Commission appointed by the British government. What is that commission? Simon Commission, 1927. Why this Simon Commission was appointed? Just to review the working of the existing constitution in the country and recommend what are the changes to be brought in the constitution of the country. For that reason, Simon Commission was appointed. The Simon Commission visited almost all areas of the country, and to the Simon Commission, many group of people have given the representation. What is the requirement to be satisfied in the new constitution? As a part of that particular representations, Naga people, what is that? Naga people also, approached the Simon Commission, and they have petitioned the, Simon Commission, sir, we are the people who eat pork, which is hated by Muslims. We are the people who eat beef, which is hated by Hindus. Okay, and we speak the language which is not spoken by Hindus nor Muslims. Okay. So what we understand is we don't have any Indianness in the character. Kindly give us a separate nation. kindly give us a separate nation. Got my point? So this is not the only case with the Naga people. There are various sections of population which are having the similar opinion in the northeastern states. Okay. Then what is the solution our constitution makers have found out? Giving the autonomous regions. Giving the autonomous regions in the name of 6 schedule areas. I will explain what are the 6 schedule areas. It means you are giving autonomy. Autonomy means what? Non-interference by the government in the day-to-day activities of the or day-to-day functioning of their administrative structures. This is how the constitution found the solution. This is how the constitution has found the solution. Got my point? And some states may be having special needs of administration. You can't categorize all the states in the single mold. It is not possible also. Yes? The constitution has to address 2 things. The disparities across different regions, that is across different states, between the different states. At the same time, it has to address the problems within the state. It has to address the problems within the states. Okay, not all the time one state may be in conflict with the other state. Within the state itself there will be many problems. For example, in Gujarat and Maharashtra, we have Marathwada region, Kutch region, Vidarbha regions. These are very much backward. In order to address this backwardness, Constitution has given a special provision for the backward regions in Maharashtra and Gujarat. That is Article 371. Got my point? Similarly, in Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, when it was United Andhra Pradesh, within the state of Andhra Pradesh, there were many clashes between Andhra people and Telangana people regarding the local job opportunities. That's why a provision was made in the Constitution, that is Article 371D, which talks about a zonal system. Are you able to understand? Where certain jobs are reserved for the people within the zone. They are not open for everybody. The local people in that area will be eligible for certain kinds of jobs. Got my point? So it means every region, every problem in the country is to be addressed by the Constitution. That's why Constitution of India is the largest written constitution. Got my point? Every section, for example, you want to live in Kerala, for example, or Tamil Nadu. Okay, suppose Telangana people celebrate Batkama festival. Okay, and suppose if the Batkama festival is to be practiced in this particular state of Kerala, if the government of Kerala is acting against those people who are celebrating Batkama, is it correct or wrong? Wrong. Why? Because we have Article 29. Every person can protect and preserve his culture and language. Got my point? So, and moreover, suppose minorities are very much backward with respect to education. Actually, Rajendra Singh Sachar committee, which is very much important committee, which explains the backwardness of the Muslim minorities. Okay? So, for that requirement, you require special rights to establish and administer your educational institutions without any interference of the state. Interference means there will be positive interference with respect to academic curriculum and etc. But as far as the management is concerned, they can manage on their own. That is given by Article 30 of the Constitution. Are you able to understand? Whatever the problems we have in the society, those are specifically being addressed by the Constitution. No provision of the Constitution has been left to the imagination by the future generation, because future generation may be thinking regarding the rights of the people in various dimensions. Such kind of confusion need not be left in the Constitution. That's why everything is mentioned in the Constitution. Constitution size also very much huge, because those matters which can be put for the normal, general legislation, these were also defined in the Constitution. Got my point? I will explain. First of all, write down. Indian Constitution is largest written constitution. We are discussing about salient features. Okay, Indian Constitution is largest written constitution. Indian Constitution is largest written constitution. Okay, write down. Next, that is a side reading. Okay, write down. It is largest because because of the following reasons. It is largest because of the following reasons. Number 1, the presence of vast geography. The presence of vast geography. Vast geography. Next point, heterogeneous population. Heterogeneous population. Single constitution. Single constitution for both centering states. Single constitution for both centering states. Historical reasons such as Government of India Act of 1935. Historical reasons such as Government of India Act of 1935. Government of India Act of 1935. Okay, right? Actually, Britishers wanted to give us constitution at various levels, at various phases. The final document they have given was Government of India Act of 1935. Of course, Government of India Act of 1935 did not satisfy Indian interest, but still it has offered very important provisions for the Indian constitution. In other words, sometimes we compare Government of India Act of 1935 to be skeleton of Indian constitution. Skeleton of Indian constitution, because the general principles of the constitutions have been borrowed from Government of India Act of 1935. Got my point? For example, the office of governor has been borrowed from Government of India Act. Emergency provisions in the constitution. What is that? Emergency provisions in the constitution. Federalism, okay, in the present Supreme Court. So such kind of features have been borrowed from the Government of India Act of 1935. Even parliamentary form of democracy, bicameral legislature, existence of two houses at the union level. These are all borrowed from the Government of India Act of 1935. That's why it is called a skeleton of Indian constitution. Okay, next point. Next one. Presence of legal luminaries in the Constituent Assembly. Presence of legal luminaries in the Constituent Assembly. So legal luminaries means those are well versed with the law. Actually, if you try to look at the chairperson of the drafting committee of the constitution is Ambedkar. Okay, Ambedkar himself is a lawyer or barrister. Okay, likewise there were many members. For example, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, Jawaharlal Nehru, so many, Rajendra Prasad, many members of the Constituent Assembly were lawyers by profession, advocates by profession. Got my point? So what is the impact of such legal knowledge in the constitution making? That is, one is the language is very much complex. In the constitution, you can't deduce a direct meaning from the constitution provisions. You cannot directly interpret what this provision is talking about with your common sense. For example, Article 21 says, no person's life and liberty cannot be deprived except the procedure established by law. Look at this statement. No person's life and liberty cannot be deprived except according to the procedure established by law. Does it give any direct meaning? No, it does not give any direct meaning. Got my point? So the phrases that were mentioned in the constitution very much lengthy, giving rise to largest size. That is number one. Number two, because of their legal knowledge, they try to anticipate the future problems. They try to provide the safeguards for the future problems. For actually speaking, suppose states formation is there. States, how the states are created, how the states are formed. It is very much simple procedure. It is very much simple procedure. This is nothing but it is an activity of the parliament. Through the normal legislation, the states can be created. You don't require any complex procedure in the state formation. Okay, this is the sole discretionary power of the union parliament and union government regarding the creation of the new states in the country. Got my point? This need not be mentioned in the constitution. This need not be mentioned in the constitution, but they purposefully mentioned in the constitution to see that the central government shall not be misusing its powers. The central government shall not be misusing its powers. Did you get my point? Because of their anticipating mindset, they try to provide the detailed provisions in the constitution without leaving any room for the confusion, without leaving any scope for the confusion. Got my point? Yes. This is okay. Next line. The size of the constitution. The size of the constitution can be explained in terms of 22 parts, in bracket total number of parts is 25. 22 parts, in bracket total number of parts is 25. 395 articles, in bracket total number of articles is 466. And 12 schedules. What is that? 12 schedules. Okay, right. Now you just understand what is the meaning of schedule. What is schedule? Okay, you understood what is article, right? Okay, a written rule, that is a numbered rule in the constitution, is nothing but article. That's okay. Every article talks about some aspect of the constitution. Okay, for example, article 14 talks about equality before law. Everybody is equal in front of law. Article 15 says no discrimination in the public place. Article 16 says no discrimination in the public employment and opportunities. In this way, every article deals with one aspect of the constitution. Got my point? And every part, what is part? For example, we understood what is article. Okay, what is part? Part means what? The articles which deal with the same subject matter are placed under the single part. Articles which deal with the same subject matter. For example, what is the geographical extent of India? What is the geographical extent of India? This is mentioned under which part of the constitution? Part 1 of the constitution. So part 1 contains the provisions which deal with the geographical extent of the India, how the states are formed, how the new territories can be admitted into the Indian Union. These are placed under part 1. Part 2 talks about citizenship in the country. What is that? Citizenship. Who are the citizens of the country? These are dealt under part 2. That's why article 5 to article 11 deal with the same subject matter. That is what? Citizenship. That's why it is mentioned under part 2 of the constitution. Got my point? Part 3, article 12 to article 35. These deal with the fundamental rights. Okay, everything deals with only fundamental rights. So that's why these are placed under part 3. Part 4 talks about directive principles of state policy. What are the duties of the state towards the people? Okay, these are mentioned in the part 4. All these are dealing with only with respect to the responsibilities of the government. That's why it is part 4. Got my point? In this way, every similar provisions are grouped under a particular part. Okay, this is what articles means. These are components of a given part. Okay, part deals with a particular aspect of the constitution. Okay, and next important is what is schedule. Schedule means what? Yes, any additional information to be provided in the constitution, it is provided in the form of schedule. For example, I just give you an example. Article 1 of the constitution says India is a union of states. India is a union of states. And it also explains about the geographical extent of India. India contains states, union territories, and the territories to be part of India in future. Territories to be acquired by India in future. These are all the components of Article 1. But just by looking at Article 1, can you understand how many states are there, how many union territories are there? You can't find the information under Article 1 of the Constitution. Okay? If you try to go through the original Constitution, you can download it from Ministry of Law website. So you can download the bare Constitution without any interpretations. Directly the document will be there. You go through that document, under Article 1 of the Constitution, the names of the states and union territories are not mentioned. Why these are not mentioned under Article 1? Because if every detailed information is given under Article 1 of every article of the Constitution, what will happen? The Constitution will be very much lengthy. Sometimes you can't understand what every article actually is talking about. That creates a confusion. That creates a confusion in the understanding of the reader. That's why what happened? The additional information is provided in the form of schedule. For example, Article 1 has to talk about what is the geographical extent of India. But the details of the states and union territories are mentioned under Schedule 1 of the Constitution. The Schedule 1 contains how many states? That is 28 states are clearly mentioned. 8 union territories are clearly mentioned. Okay, so that details of the Article 1 is mentioned in the Schedule 1 of the Constitution. Got my point? So that you will not be creating unnecessary confusion in the minds of the reader. Okay, suppose there is Article 246 of the Constitution. Article 246 of the Constitution. Article 246 actually deals with the powers of the union government and the state governments. What is the responsibility of union government? What is the responsibility of the state government? These are mentioned in the Article 246. But the very details of such functions are clearly mentioned in the Schedule 7 of the Constitution. Schedule 7 of the Constitution. Are you able to understand? Okay. So this avoids a confusion in the minds of the reader. That's why schedules are mentioned in the Constitution. At the time of the enforcement of the Constitution, okay, how many schedules were there? Actually, there were only 8 schedules. How many schedules were there? 8 schedules. And additionally, how many schedules were added? 4 schedules were added by means of amendment. By means of amendments. Originally 8 schedules were there, but later how many schedules were added? 4 schedules were added, and the total schedules in the Constitution is 12 schedules. It is the 12 schedules. Okay? Right. What is amendment? Amendment means what? Yes. Making any change in the Constitution. That is, adding any new provision, removing any existing provision, or making changes in the existing provision. That is called as amendment. That is called as amendment. Are you able to understand? Amendment means making changes to the Constitution. Why the changes need to be made to the Constitution? Right? Did you understand my question? Why the changes need to be made to the Constitution? Exactly. Because when the society changes, the aspirations of the people also change. Okay? So that's why the new aspirations of the people must be reflected in the Constitution. Because the Constitution is nothing but it's a guide for the people and the state. Okay? Without making the necessary changes in the Constitution will become purposeless. We must always make the Constitution relevant to the people. Relevant to the people. It should not be losing its relevance. That's why what is to be made? Amendments must be made. So periodically we will be making changes to the Constitution. How many amendments have been made to the Constitution till date? Actually 105 amendments have been made, but 106th amendment is ongoing. Okay, I will discuss why it is. Okay, right. This is what the size of the Constitution. Indian Constitution is single. What is the written largest? It is written Constitution and single largest Constitution. Got my point? Right. Next. Right. Next important feature is Indian Constitution follows what is a democracy? Parliamentary form of democracy. Indian Constitution follows, next, write down next feature. Indian Constitution follows parliamentary form of democracy. What is a democracy? Parliamentary form of democracy. Parliamentary. Parliamentary form of democracy. Okay? Right. So now just look at this point. Okay? So you take United States of America. Okay? Who is the head of the state in United States of America? American president. American president. And who exercises the power in the United States of America as far as the union government is concerned? American president. But you come to India, the decisions in the country are actually taken by whom? Prime Minister and Council of Ministers. But these decisions are expressed in the name of president. Okay, are you able to understand? In America, there is a single executive. There is a single executive that is the President of America, who performs all the functions of the government. Who performs all the functions of the government. That is American president. But in the case of India, we are having two types of executives. Two types of executives. One is president. Second one is Prime Minister and Council of Ministers. President is nominal executive. Prime Minister and Council of Ministers are real executives. Prime Minister and Council of Ministers are real executives. Okay, before we understand this concept, let us understand one more important thing. Whether India follows direct democracy or indirect democracy. Got my point? Is it direct democracy or indirect democracy? Yes? Indirect democracy. What is that? Indirect democracy. What is the meaning of direct democracy and indirect democracy? How can you differentiate direct from indirect? Got my point? How can you differentiate the direct democracy from indirect democracy? This is very, very important point. Okay? Direct democracy means, okay, if the executive is elected by the people directly, that is called as direct election. Okay, it means the rulers are elected directly by the people, that is called as direct election. Okay, if the executive is indirectly elected by the people, that is called as indirect democracy. Okay, right? So direct democracy is different, indirect democracy is different. Okay, the democracy we are following is what? Indirect democracy. The democracy we are following is indirect democracy. How we are following this indirect democracy? How are we following indirect democracy? Actually, any country, the independent political system is called a state. The political system as a whole is called as state. Okay? State is not the state government. State is not the provincial government. According to this political science jargon, state means it is an independent political system which is operated on a particular territory. India has its own territory, India has its own people, India has the government, India is also having the sovereignty. What is sovereignty? Yes, exactly. Without any external interference, if the country is functioning, that is called as sovereign. Okay, the ultimate power of the country is vested with the people and exercised by the political system. That is called as sovereignty. So India is state. Okay, and state has three organs. I told you, right? What are the three organs? Three important organs. State has multiple organs, but there are three very key organs of the state. Okay, legislature, executive and judiciary. Legislature, executive and judiciary. Got my point? State has three organs: legislature, executive and judiciary. Right? So when it comes to the functioning of the legislature, okay, what is the purpose of the legislature? Got my point? The purpose of the legislature is nothing but law-making function. What is that? Law-making function. Legislature is also a representative institution. What is that? Representative institution. Representative institution means what? The members of the legislature are elected by the people. The views, the opinions, the aspirations of the people are reflected by legislature. What the people want from the government, okay, that is being translated in the form of legislature. Got my point? People wanted free power for the household purposes. People wanted free RTC travel for the women. Got my point? That's why they have voted for Congress. Those aspirations are reflected in the State Legislative Assembly of Telangana. Got my point? That's why the opinion of the people, the aspirations of the people will be reflected in the legislature. Okay? And this legislature is nothing but representative institution. What is that? Representative institution. The people will be having representation. That's why, have you casted votes in the recent general elections? Yes or no? Suppose you are from which constituency? Huh? Mirialgoda. Who got elected? Yes, he is your representative. Okay, in this way, you are part of one or the other constituency, and you have elected your representative who is representing you in the legislature. Got my point? This is what called as representative institution. Okay, and not only that, what is the purpose of this institution? Law making. Now tell me, what is law? Got my point? Did you get the idea? What is the meaning of law? Law means, okay, anybody can give your idea. What is the meaning of law? Yes. Yes, exactly. Law means it is a set of rules and regulations which are enforceable in character, which are enforceable, which can be implementable, that is called as law. Write down. Law means a set of rules and regulations. Law means a set of rules and regulations. A set of rules and regulations which are enforceable in character. Enforceable in character. Okay? Right. Suppose you don't wear the helmet. What do you need to do? You need to pay the penalty. Okay? Whether the rule of wearing helmet is enforceable or not enforceable, that is put to operation. Got my point? So that's why anything which is implemented, anything which can be enforced, anything which can be complied, that is called as law. Okay? If you don't follow the law, what will be the consequence? The punishment is the consequence. The penalty is the consequence. That is why it is called as law. Law is different, direction is different. Law is different, direction is different. For example, there is a conflict going on in Israel, for example. Government of India may advise its citizens not to go to Israel. If you go to Israel, are you punishable? No. Government is just advising you, don't go there, because your life will be in danger. Okay? But during the COVID time, if you don't wear the mask, that was punished. It is not a direction. It is rather it is a law. Got my point? Right. This is one definition of law. Okay? But in democracy, law has another expression. Okay? Right. Write down. In democratic polity, law means expression of will of the people. Expression of what is that? Will of the people. This is another definition of law. Yes, of course, law is enforceable in character, that's okay. But in the democratic polity, law has another important interpretation. What is that? Expression of the will of the people. What is the will? Opinion of the people. Aspirations of the people are expressed in the form of law. Got my point? For example, I ask you individually, do you like violence? Do you like violence? Do you like killing of one person by other person? No. You ask any person who is having the basic civic mindset, nobody will be preaching the violence, nobody would like to practice the violence. This is the human nature. This is what we call it as humanity. This is what we call it as humanity. If you are having humanity, you must be acting against the violence. Got my point? That's why IPC, Indian Penal Code, bans It actually punishes for the murder. Under section 301, 302. Okay, of IPC, what is punishable? Murder is punishable. Okay. Do you like dowry death? Dowry death is good thing. Just because your wife did not bring dowry, you will put her to death? No, that is punishable. Again, according to Article 304B. Got my point? Yes. Dowry harassment is offence. Section 497 of IPC. Got my point? Why I am telling you is, we have certain provisions in the law which are having common acceptance. Everybody is agreeing what is good and what is bad. Okay. Legislature has to respond to the concerns of the people. Whatever the people might be having the concerns, those must be reflected in the form of what is that? Lawmaking. That's why end of the day, law is nothing but expression of the will of the people. Got my point? When any law is against the will of the people, people come onto the roads. For example, recently in the new law, that is Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita, this is nothing but it's a law which is replacing IPC, Okay. In that particular new act, if any truck driver hits and runs, suppose after hitting a vehicle, he may get down the vehicle, out of the vehicle, and he may be running away. In that case, he will be punishable with 10 years imprisonment. How much? 10 years imprisonment. Actually speaking, it is unduly harsh. Okay, because why the truck drivers usually abscond from the place? Because fearing the, the problem that is going to be faced by the local people. He may be beaten up by the local people before he reaches the police station. Got my point? That's why they usually abscond from the place. Okay, in that occasion they will be awarded with the penalty of 10 years imprisonment. Okay, so they did not like this law. Hence they came onto the roads. Okay, similarly, you take Punjab and Haryana farmers, especially Punjab farmers. They have agitated against farm laws, the laws which try to reform the agriculture. But these laws were not accepted by the Punjab farmers and farmers at the all India level. So eventually what the government has done, it has withdrawn the laws. So essentially what we have to understand, law is nothing but expression of the will of the people. Got my point? Right. So function of the legislature is lawmaking. Okay, write down. Next line. Before we understand parliamentary form of democracy, let us understand the architecture of the state. Okay, let us understand the architecture of the state. Write down. The state consists of three wings, three important organs. State consists of three important organs, which include legislature, executive and judiciary. Okay, right? Okay, first write down legislature. Okay, write down. It is a representative institution. Which represent the people, in the process of lawmaking, monitoring and controlling the government, okay, taking the problems of the people taking the problems of the people to the notice of the government. To the notice of the government. These are the major functions of the, what is that? Legislature. The major functions of the legislature. Okay, right. We have legislatures at union level, state level. We have executive at the union level and state level. We have judiciary at the union level and state level. Okay, got my point? Because we have two governments at two different levels, hence we are having different levels of the legislature, different levels of the executive, different levels of the judiciary. Okay, right. So let us understand some more important issues regarding the points regarding the legislature. Okay, actually in India we have a bicameral legislature. What is that legislature? Bicameral legislature. Okay, what is the meaning of bicameral legislature? Yes, existence of two houses. What is that? Existence of two houses at a given level is called as bicameral legislature. Okay, what are the houses we are having? Two houses means Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. What is that? Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. We have two houses at the union level, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Actually, the legislature at the union level is called as, what is it called? Parliament. What is that? Parliament. Parliament means it is a legislature at a union level. Parliament is nothing but legislature at a union level is called as parliament. At the central level is called as parliament. Parliament, actually the term parliament has been defined under 79 of the constitution. Article 79 of the constitution. Article 79 says what is parliament? What is parliament? Parliament consists of Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha and President. This is very, very important. Okay, Parliament consists of, write down, India has bicameral legislature. Okay, bicameral legislature consisting of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Consisting of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. However, Article 79 says, Parliament means Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha and President. Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha and President. Okay. The members of Lok Sabha is called as members of Parliament. What is that? Members of Parliament. Members of Rajya Sabha is called as members of Parliament. Got my point? Okay, people get confused. That's why I am specifically addressing. Okay, members of Lok Sabha is called as Parliament. Members of Rajya Sabha is also called as Parliament. Okay. Now, whether the President is a member of Parliament or part of the Parliament? Part of the Parliament, but not the member of the Parliament. President is not member of the Parliament, but only part of the Parliament. This is what the message given by Article 79 of the Constitution. Okay, got my point? Everything clear for all of you? Yes. Now let us understand what is Lok Sabha and what is Rajya Sabha. What is Lok Sabha and what is Rajya Sabha? Okay, please make a table. Lok Sabha versus Rajya Sabha. Okay, what is Lok Sabha and what is Rajya Sabha? Okay. Lok Sabha. Lok means what? People. Sabha means house. People's house. This is nothing but people's house. Okay. Next, Rajya Sabha means, Rajya means in Hindi Rashtra. Rashtra in Telugu, it means states. Sabha means house. That is nothing but Council of States. Okay, Rajya Sabha is nothing but Council of States. Lok Sabha is nothing but People's House. Okay, right. Next important thing is actually how the Lok Sabha members. Actually, Lok Sabha consists of how many members? 545 members. Okay, out of 545, 543 are elected. 543 are elected and 2 are nominated. 2 are nominated. But present day, the nomination system for the Lok Sabha has been completely abolished. It is no more in the existence. The nomination is discontinued. The nomination is discontinued. What is maintained? Only elected members are going to be elected. Okay, these 543 members are going to be elected. Okay, in the next Lok Sabha elections. Okay, right. And if you try to look at this Lok Sabha, how the members are elected, directly or indirectly? Lok Sabha members directly. They are directly elected. How they are directly elected? By the people. Actually, if you try to look at the country, entire country is divided into how many constituencies for the Lok Sabha? 543 constituencies. 543 constituencies. How the constituencies are divided? Based on the territory or based on the population? Yes, exactly. Based on the population. The country is divided into 543 constituencies. Okay, every constituency will be having uniform population. That means every 7 to 10 lakh population there must be one constituency. That is Lok Sabha constituency. In this way, entire country is divided into 543 constituencies. Okay, from each constituency, how many representatives are elected? One representative is elected. That representative is called as MP, Member of Parliament. Member of Parliament in Lok Sabha. Got my point? So whole country will get the representation in which house? Lok Sabha. By means of the constituencies called as territorial constituencies. What is it called as? Territorial constituencies. Okay, from these territorial constituencies, every MP is elected. Every constituency is representing only one MP. This is what Lok Sabha. Okay, so it means Lok Sabha is elected directly by the people on the basis of, what is that? On the basis of two things. One is territorial constituencies is the one way, okay, one point. Secondly, on the basis of universal adult franchise. What is that? Universal adult franchise. What is that? Universal adult franchise. Universal means everybody. Adult means the one who has reached the age of 18 years. Okay. Franchise means right. Okay, voting right. So universally you are granting the voting right. That is called as universal adult franchise. Got my point? Nobody shall be denied with the voting right just because you belong to a particular race, religion, caste or language. Got my point? Based on these factors, nobody shall be denied with the voting right. Okay, this is what called as universal adult franchise. And every MP is elected on the basis of the territorial basis and elected by the people on the basis of the universal adult franchise. Okay, right. So it means Lok Sabha is a house which is directly elected by the people. You need to clearly record these points in your mind. Okay, you shall not be forgetting at any time. Okay, don't get confused between any point. Okay, so you need to have that kind of crystal clarity. Okay, what is this? Direct elections, and these are held on the basis of territorial constituencies and following the principle of universal adult franchise. Right. Next important point is, okay, how Rajya Sabha is elected. How the Rajya Sabha members are elected. Okay, Rajya Sabha members are elected actually directly or indirectly? Indirectly. Okay, Rajya Sabha members are elected indirectly. Okay, right. How many members are there? 245 members are there. Presently, how many members are there? 245 members are there. Okay, right. So these are elected indirectly. Indirectly by whom? Indirectly by whom? Tell me. By the states. Because it is called as Council of States. Okay, here the people are the voters. Here the participants are the states. Here the people are the voters. Where in which case people are the voters? Lok Sabha. In the case of Rajya Sabha, who are the participants? States are the participants. States are the participants. Okay. So hence, the members, the voters in this election are elected members of State Legislative Assembly. Elected members of State Legislative Assembly. Got my point? Elected members of State Legislative Assembly. Who is your MLA? Who is your MLA? Your MLA? Your MLA? Lakshman Reddy. Danam. Your MLA? Your MLA? Okay. Your MLA? ఎవరు కాశిరెడ్డి ఇక్కడ కల్వకుర్తి యువర్ ఎమ్మెల్యే ఓకే యువర్ ఎమ్మెల్యే విచ్ కాన్స్టిట్యున్సీ ఓకే ఓకే సి అండర్స్టాండ్ యువర్ MLAs are elected, right? These will participate in the election of the Rajya Sabha MP selection. In the election of the Rajya Sabha MPs, who will be participating? Elected MLAs of the State Legislative Assembly. You have elected your MLAs, right? These MLAs will be electing the Rajya Sabha members. You elected your MLAs, the elected MLAs will elect the members of Rajya Sabha. This is direct or indirect? Indirect. This is what? Direct. Okay? Your MP, that is Lok Sabha MP, will be representing you, your interest in the Lok Sabha. Your interest in the Lok Sabha, your problems in the Lok Sabha, your issues in the Lok Sabha. But the MPs who are elected by Legislative Assembly members, they will be reflecting the problems of the states. Got my point? They will be reflecting the problems of the states, the issues of the states. Got my point? For example, Kerala state is suffering from a huge financial crisis. Okay, which legislature, which house has to represent the problems of Kerala? Yes, in any house, anybody can raise any matter. But more particularly, in which house it can be raised? Rajya Sabha. Why? You are representing the problems of the state of Kerala. You are representing the problems of people where it must be represented? Lok Sabha. Ardhamatunda meek point? Yes or no? Yes. This is Council of States. This is House of People. People's House. People's House. Okay. Right. Next. Lok Sabha is known as lower house. Lok Sabha is known as, right? Lok Sabha is lower house. Lok Sabha is the lower house. Okay. Right. What is the meaning of this lower house? Lower house means what? Okay. Lower house means what? Actually, if you try to compare, the minimum age to contest in the Lok Sabha elections is 25 years. Okay. Got my point? Minimum age to contest in the Rajya Sabha elections is, what is that? 30 years. Okay. Age of 25 is smaller than 30 years. So hence, Rajya Sabha is, what is that? Upper house. Lok Sabha is the lower house. Lok Sabha is the lower house. Got my point? Similarly, there is another important point. Suppose I am an intellectual and I speak something to be rational in the society. Suppose you take Jayaprakash Narayan. Have you seen his interviews? Very rational person. Very rational. He is a visionary. Unfortunately, he could not be succeeded as a member of Legislative Assembly. He could not become successful with his legislative membership, but he is an intellectual. He was a retired IAS officer. Okay, former IAS officer. IAS officer can be numerous number. There can be many people, but only few will be very much relevant to the society. One of such persons is Jayaprakash Narayan. Okay. This officer, this person always says that free schemes are dangerous to the society. Freebies are very, very dangerous. Okay. Suppose RTC is there. It is thrown open for the women. Free. Okay. And you are able to see the crowd in the RTC buses. Because of this overload, accidents can also be taking place. Driver may lose the control on the steering some different situations. We can't say every time road will be right. Okay, sometimes if the bus is not under the control of the driver, what will happen? Brakes cannot function. Some problems may emerge in the bus. Who is responsible? Okay, that is one. Number two, every government has to spend money on, actually there are two types of goods demanded by the people. Public goods, private goods. What is that? Public goods and private goods. Do you have salt in your toothpaste? మీ టూత్పేస్ట్లో ఉప్పు ఉందా లేదా? మీ టూత్పేస్ట్లో ఉప్పు ఉందా? మీ టూత్పేస్ట్లో లేదా? What is this? Personal preference or public preference? Personal preference. It is my wish. What kind of goods I need to purchase for my well-being. This is my private wish. Okay, I can have different types of goods according to my requirements. But who is your law and order? Who is the police officer in your jurisdiction? Yes, what is he? SI. In a rural area, station house officer is sub-inspector. In your area, sub-inspector. Can the private person be discharging law and order functions? No. The government has a responsibility to provide the policing function. Okay, government required to provide the required administrative structures and policies for the public welfare and interest. Okay, so you are able to differentiate two types of goods, private goods and public goods. Private goods means this can be changing from one person to the other person. It is according to the requirement of the person. Whereas public good is nothing but which are provided uniformly to every person in the society by the government. Uniformly, without any variation. You are protected by the government, I am also protected by the government. Got my point? Education, health, these are all the public goods. Okay? Tell me now, in which aspect the government must be focusing upon? Whether in the private goods or public goods? Public goods. Are you able to understand? If you maintain the public good in a proper manner, the person can become self-dependent. The person can become self-dependent. For example, if I give you education, if I give you health, if I give you skill, you will become the most productive person. You don't require to depend upon the state for your private goods. అర్థమవుతుందా? ఎలక్ట్రిసిటీ బిల్ ఎందుకు కట్టాలి గవర్నమెంట్? మీ ఇంట్లోనే ఎలక్ట్రిసిటీ బిల్ గవర్నమెంట్కి ఏం పని? Are you able to understand? Okay, because consumption needs may be different from people to people. So for the sake of free electricity bill, the person requires to reduce his consumption, thus reducing his living standard. What is the business the government is having to give the free current, to free RTC? Everything is free. Ultimately what will happen? The resources of the state will be drained in the free schemes, without creating the proper infrastructure, proper roads, proper health, proper education, proper social and economic conditions in the society. These are taking the back seat. Got my point? So these things are highlighted by Jayaprakash Narayan. He does not like these free schemes. Yes, some assistance can be given depending upon the status of a particular community, but it cannot be uniform to every person. Got my point? If this person contests in the election, what is the chances of his winnability? Will he win in the election? The one who is outspoken, the one who speaks the reality, will he be having the chances of winning in the elections? No. Are you able to understand? Such candidates cannot win in the Lok Sabha elections. Got my point? That's why what kind of people you find in the Lok Sabha? The people who are mass leaders, the people who are having extensive public contacts, the people who are having some kind of financial affluence. Such people can be found in the Lok Sabha. What kind of people found in the Rajya Sabha? Intellectuals. Generally intellectuals can be preferred to Rajya Sabha because these are elected indirectly. Public opinion is not sought. Whose opinion is being sought? MLA's opinion is being sought. You are not seeking the public opinion directly, you are seeking the opinion of the MLAs. Naturally, the chances of winning in the elections for the intellectuals is very much high in the Rajya Sabha elections. That's why Rajya Sabha is elders house. Lok Sabha is called as lower house. Yes? In terms of brain. in terms of brain as well as age. Brain as well as age. That's why Rajya Sabha is the upper house, Lok Sabha is the lower house. Got my point? Yes. Write down. Did you write this point? Lower house and upper house. Okay. Right. Next point. Write down. Under the Lok Sabha, participates in the election of executive is nothing but government, participates in the election of the executive or government, and also involves in controlling the government. Also involves in the controlling the government. What is controlling the government means? What is that? Monitoring the government. Monitoring means what the government is doing for the people. Is it doing rightly or wrongly? That is called as monitoring function. Got my point? Similarly, it will also be helping in the removal of the government. It will also helping in the playing the important role in the removal of the government. It means government can stay in power as long as it enjoys the confidence of the Lok Sabha. The moment the Lok Sabha loses the confidence, government has to resign. So that's why which house is playing the role in the election of the government and removal of the government? Lok Sabha. Okay. Whereas Rajya Sabha has no role. Rajya Sabha has no role in the election and removal of the government. Rajya Sabha has no role, right? Rajya Sabha has no role in the election and removal of the government. Election and removal of the government. This is the role of the Rajya Sabha. Okay, right. And coming to the Lok Sabha, it is temporary house. Rajya Sabha is the temporary house. Why it is temporary? Because elections need to be conducted with a particular periodicity of 5 years. Every 5 years elections need to be conducted. Every 5 years elections need to be conducted. Okay? And of course the Lok Sabha can also be dissolved. By the president even before the completion of 5 years. Even before the completion of 5 years. Okay? Even before the completion of 5 years also the president can dissolve the Lok Sabha. Okay? Right. And again fresh elections will be conducted. This is why it is temporary house. Okay? Whereas Rajya Sabha is, what is the house? Permanent house. But members will be having tenure. Of 6 years. Okay? Here members and house will be having the tenure of 5 years. Here the members will be having the tenure of 6 years and the house will be permanent. Rajya Sabha cannot be dissolved. But every 2 years, 1/3 of the members of Rajya Sabha generally they retire. Okay? Every 2 years, how many members will be retiring from Rajya Sabha? 1/3 of members will be retiring and elections will be conducted. Okay? So that's why Rajya Sabha is a permanent chamber and Lok Sabha is a temporary house. Okay? At any given point of time, Rajya Sabha will be continue to exist, but Lok Sabha will be undergoing elections with certain periodicity. Yes. So that is out of 245 into 1/3. That is the number of members will be retiring from the Rajya Sabha. Okay? Right. This is a major difference between Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Okay? Right. Right now, despite the differences, next line lo rayandi down the table. Okay, despite the differences between Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, both houses play equal role in the process of law making. Both houses play equal role in the process of law making. Okay, అర్థమవుతుందా మీకు పాయింట్? రైట్. How they can play equal role? Because actually if a law is to be enacted by the parliament, a bill has to be introduced. What is that? Bill. What is the meaning of bill? Bill means what? Okay, bill means what? Yes, bill means what? Legislative proposal. That is called as bill. In other words, you can also say bill means it is nothing but draft law. Bill is nothing but draft law. A law which is not clearly enacted, that is called as draft law. That is simply a proposal. Okay, shall we eat biryani in the lunch? That is what? Proposal. Okay, if you accept, we will eat. That is called a law. Got my point? Right? This is what draft law or legislative proposal. Okay, and this bill is introduced either in Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. It can be introduced either in Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. Suppose if it is introduced in Lok Sabha, if the Lok Sabha passes the bill, passes means what? Passing the bill means what? Majority members in the house are in favor of the bill. That is called as passing the bill. Majority members in the house voted in favor of the bill is called as passing the bill. And similarly, the bill will be forwarded to Rajya Sabha. Rajya Sabha also has to pass the bill. Later it will be referred to whom? President. President has to give the assent. President has to approve the bill. Then what will happen? The process of law making is completed. Will be completed. So it means in this particular course, what is happening, the bill is being converted into law. You can say it is act, you can also say it is a statute. What is that? Statute. Okay, bill is converted into law when it passes in Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, and finally receives the assent of the president. This process completes the law making. So that particular final outcome is called as act, statute or law. You can call it with any name. Got my point? So this is how they play equal role in the process of law making. Okay, right. So now let us come to the point now. What is executive? I told you. Okay, state consists of what is it? Legislature, executive and judiciary. We have completed what is legislature. Okay, now what is executive? Executive means it is nothing but government. Okay, executive is nothing but government which implements the laws made by the legislature. Okay, the law making function is different, law implementing function is different. Lawmakers are not law implementers. We have separated these functions. Okay, law making function is different, law implementing functions are different. Okay, right. So executive is the agency which implements the law, or executive is the agency which manages the affairs of the country. Executive is the agency which affairs of the country. For example, Telangana Chief Minister and Council of Ministers, they are managing the affairs of the state. Hence they are executive of the state. Got my point? Right? Prime Minister and Council of Ministers, they are the executives of the country. They are managing the affairs of the India. Got my point? Yes. So actually executive is also having two types. One is temporary executive, second one is permanent executive. Permanent executive and temporary executive. Okay. Temporary executive means what? The chief minister and council of ministers is temporary executive. Prime minister and council of ministers is a temporary executive. Why they are temporary? Because they are elected for a particular tenure. They are elected for a particular duration. They can be removed even without completion of the tenure. Without completion of the tenure, because they are temporary in nature. Because they are temporary in nature. Got my point? So they can easily removable. Hence they are temporary. Okay. And permanent executive means what? Permanent executive means what? The bureaucracy, or you can say the civil services. Bureaucracy or civil services come under the category of the, what is that? Permanent executive. Why they are permanent? Because once they are recruited, generally they hold the office till the time of their retirement. They are not recruited for a particular tenure. You are not going to be recruited for the period of 5 years. You are going to be recruited for the period of entire 30 years. Till the time of your retirement, you will be in the service. Hence you are permanent. Got my point? So hence we have the civil services at the union level, civil service system at the state level. IAS, IPS officers, group 1, group 2 officers, group 3, group 4, all these come under the category of the permanent executive. Okay? Right. So the decisions about the law implementation is taken by temporary executive, but execution is done by the permanent executive. Okay. If a person is to be arrested, whether a minister is going and arresting the person or a police officer is arresting. Police officer is arresting. Got my point? Why? Because these are having the knowledge of rules and regulations. They are able to maintain the neutrality. They are able to maintain their independent character. Why? Because they are not recruited at the mercy of the temporary executive. They are actually recruited for the reason of merit. For the reason of merit. You are meritorious. You are meritorious. Hence you will be serving the system with the required independence and autonomy. So that is what called as permanent executive. Got my point? Neutrality means you will not be favoring any person, rather you will be favoring the law of the land. That is what called as neutrality. You will be neutral. So this is how the executive is there. Temporary executive and permanent executive. Okay, write down. The executive is the agency. The executive is the agency which implements the law, and manages the affairs of the country. Got my point? Affairs of the country means all the matters, all the needs of the country are fulfilled by the executive. Okay, developmental functions, regulatory functions, service provision, okay, law and order, all these are maintained by the executive. Okay, right. Next, executive is of two types. That is political executive who are appointed for in bracket elected, okay, appointed for in bracket elected for a particular tenure, and they can be removable before the completion of the tenure. That is why they are called as temporary executives. Okay. On the other hand, the permanent executives are recruited for the career, okay, and these are removed in a difficult manner. These are removed in a difficult manner. These are removed in a difficult manner. This is what called as permanent executive. Okay, right. Okay, so we were discussing about what is it, parliamentary form of democracy, right? What is it? Parliamentary form of democracy. Okay, right. So in other words, parliamentary form of democracy is a one in which a government emerges from what is that? Parliament itself. Government emerges from parliament itself. Government comes from parliament. Government comes from parliament. In the parliament, which house specially? Lok Sabha. Okay, got my point? The government emerges from Lok Sabha. Government emerges or comes from the Lok Sabha. It means, suppose in Lok Sabha, how many members are there? 545 members are there. Which party, 543, which party forms the government? Whichever party secures at least half of the seats in Lok Sabha, such party will be forming the government. Are you able to understand? Why Congress party came into power in Telangana? Because it secured how many seats in the state legislative assembly? 64 seats. Out of how many seats? 119 seats. Out of 119, Congress party secured 64. 64 means, is it more than 50% or less than 50%? More than 50%. Hence, Congress party formed the government. Okay, so that's why even in the Lok Sabha, Modi government secured more than 280 seats. NDA, it's a party alliance, got more than 330 seats. So what is the total number of seats? 543. 330 seats means, is it more than half or below half? More than half. So that's why any party secures more than half of the seats in the Lok Sabha, they will be forming the government. Got my point? So government means here what? Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers. Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers. This is what called government. This is what called as government. Yesterday I told you what is the definition of government. Do you remember? Yesterday I told you government means it is a group of people who are vested with the policy implementing functions. So now who are the group of people here? Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers. Prime Minister and Council of Ministers. These are appointed by whom? President of India. These are appointed by President of India. And who is the Prime Minister? The Prime Minister is the leader of largest party, leader of the majority party in Lok Sabha. Leader of the majority party. In Lok Sabha, what is the majority party? BJP. In Lok Sabha, what is the majority party? BJP. The leader of BJP is who? Who is the leader of the BJP? Narendra Modi is the leader of BJP. Hence, he became Prime Minister. Who appointed him as a Prime Minister? President of India has appointed him as a Prime Minister. Okay, and how Council of Ministers are appointed? The same President of India appointed Council of Ministers also, other ministers also. But on whose recommendation they were appointed? Prime Minister's recommendation. Okay, did you understand? People elected the Lok Sabha. Based on the majority in Lok Sabha, one party gets an opportunity to form the government. Okay, and the leader of such party is appointed as Prime Minister. On the advice of Prime Minister, Council of Ministers are appointed. This is how the government is elected. Now tell me whether the government is elected directly or indirectly? Indirectly. Because you are electing the Lok Sabha members first. Later the Lok Sabha members are taking part in the formation of the government. So hence in India the democracy is what? Direct or indirect? Indirect. Because the rulers of this country, the Prime Minister and Council of Ministers are rulers. These are not elected by the people directly. These are elected by members of Lok Sabha, and the members of Lok Sabha are elected by the people. So hence this is why it is called as indirect democracy. Got my point? Ardhamainda clear ga? Yes. Write down the features of parliamentary form of democracy. The features, okay? The features, okay? Write down first point. Existence of existence of nominal and real executives. Existence of, what is that first point? Nominal and real executives. Okay, right. So nominal means what? Nominal, who is the nominal executive in India? President. Who is the real executive in India? Prime Minister and Council of Ministers. Prime Minister and Council of Ministers. Why the president is called nominal? Why the president is called nominal? Because practically speaking, the president does not have any independent decision making powers. Got my point? Right down. President is nominal because he does not have independent decision making powers. Independent decision making power, but he has to follow aid and advice of Prime Minister and Council of Ministers. Aid and advice of Prime Minister and Council of Ministers. Hence, President is nominal and Prime Minister and Council of Ministers are the real executives. Got my point? Right. And what is the position of the President in India? How can you describe the President? Okay. Despite he is a nominal executive, he must be having some position in the country, right? Without that position, he cannot be called to be the first citizen of India. Definitely some significance is attached with the office of President. Okay. What is the significance? The President is the head of the Constitution. What is that? What is the status of President? Head of the Constitution. Head of the Constitution. Okay. Being the head of the Constitution, what function he has to perform? What function he has to perform? He has to see that the elected government shall not be violating the Constitution. His function is this. He has to see that the Constitution shall not be violated. Because the Constitution gives what are the powers of the government, what are the rights of the people. But in the exercise of its powers, it cannot be violating the rights of the people. Just because you have the power, you can't suppress the people. You can't, control the people in a negative manner. So that is to be safeguarded by the President. Got my point? Right. He is the head of the Constitution. And what else? So it means in the position of the head of the Constitution, he will be protecting the Constitution and preserving and defending the Constitution. What is that? Protecting, preserving and defending the Constitution. That's why he is called head of the Constitution. Okay? Right. Next, I will explain how these functions can be exercised, okay, in the upcoming sessions, okay? Right. And another important point is, President is also part of the Parliament. I told you this point earlier, part of the Parliament. President is also, what is that? Part of the Parliament. Okay? Because law cannot be enacted unless and until Lok Sabha agrees, Rajya Sabha agrees, and also takes the assent of the President. Then only the law making process will be completed. That's why President is part of the Parliament. And apart from that, okay, the President is also head of the executive. The President is also head of the executive. Because why he is called head of the executive? Because the President, any decision making, any order, any rule, any notification issued by the central government or any appointment is issued by the government, that will always be issued in the name of the President. You look at in general, suppose you can Google any appointment of the election commission, any officer is appointed, their appointment is done in the name of the president. So what is the title? In the name of the president, so and so officer is appointed. So that is how the president is, what is that? Head of the executive. Okay, and he is also part of the executive also. He is also part of the executive. He is also part of the executive. Okay. Part means we need to understand the composition of the executive. Who will be there in the executive? Executive consists of, in India, executive consists of president, vice president, prime minister and council of ministers, plus attorney general. This is very, very important. Okay. In India, executive consists of president, vice president, prime minister and council of ministers and attorney general. Please write down simultaneously. Okay. India, the executive consists of president, vice president, prime minister and council of ministers and attorney general. Okay. You know the significance of president now. Vice president is, does the vice president has any function to perform in the constitution? In the capacity of the vice president, being the vice president, is there any specific function? Actually, in the position of vice president, there is no function. He is a 12th player in the match. In cricket, how many players will be there? 11 players, right? He is a 12th player. This player comes into the function only when presidential office is vacant or president is temporarily out of his office. Okay, in that duration, the vice president will act as a president. That too on the temporary basis. But meanwhile, he will act as a ex officio chairperson of Rajya Sabha. He will act as a ex officio chairperson of Rajya Sabha. Got my point? Usually constitution did not attach any specific function to the vice president, but this vice president functions as a ex officio chairperson of Rajya Sabha. What is ex officio? Got my point? Write down. Ex officio means by virtue or in other words by the reason of by virtue of holding one office, by virtue of holding one office, if one is eligible to hold another office, by virtue of one office, if one is eligible to hold another office, is called as ex officio. Is called as the very term is called as ex officio. Okay, right. So it means the vice president is the ex officio chairperson of which house? What is the house? Rajya Sabha. As a chairperson of Rajya Sabha, vice president has no salary. Okay, vice president receives a salary in the capacity of the ex officio chairperson of Rajya Sabha. As a chairperson of Rajya Sabha, he will be receiving the money. Okay, right? Are you able to understand? Okay, right. For example, before we understand these points, please understand another important point. Lok Sabha is headed by, what is that? Speaker. Rajya Sabha is headed by chairperson. That is, who is that chairperson? Vice president. Okay. And there can be speaker and deputy speaker for the Lok Sabha. For Rajya Sabha, chairperson and what is that? Deputy chairperson. Okay. Speaker and deputy speaker are called as presiding officers of Lok Sabha. These are called as presiding officers of Rajya Sabha. Chairperson and deputy chairperson are called as presiding officers of Rajya Sabha. Presiding means the one who convenes the sessions. the one who heads the sessions, the one who monitors the sessions, that is called as presiding officer. In the absence of speaker, who will be holding the sessions of the Lok Sabha? Deputy speaker. In the absence of chairperson, who will be holding the sessions of Rajya Sabha? Deputy chairperson. Okay, so this is how you can see the presiding officers for Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Got my point? Yes. So now you understand, we understood what is president, what is vice president. Now we know prime minister and council of ministers, they are the real executives. These are the real executives, and who will be aiding and advising the president? Aiding and advising the president. Thus they function in the capacity of the government. Okay, and next one. What is the next fourth one? What is it? Attorney General. Okay, fourth important office is Attorney General. Right? Now tell me how the government has to function, according to which law the government has to function, primarily according to Constitution. Every government has to function according to the Constitution. Okay? Right. But tell me whether Prime Minister and Council of Ministers are legal luminaries, they have the sufficient knowledge of law? No. In the democracy, we can't expect the public representatives to be educated. Public representatives to be educated. It is not mandatory. Why? Because if education is made as a benchmark to be the member of the parliament or to govern the government, the masses, the poor people, illiterate people will lose the opportunity in the government. So hence everybody is equally eligible to become Prime Minister or Council of Ministers, irrespective of their educational qualifications. No educational qualification is fixed for President, Vice President, Prime Minister and Council of Ministers, Chief Ministers, MLA, MLC. Okay? And also every office, but except local bodies, with respect to Panchayat Raj institutions. And that too not in Telangana and Andhra, where these have been fixed, Rajasthan and Haryana. But essentially what we must understand, the public representatives are not having technical knowledge regarding the Constitution. Okay? But you always understand, government will be giving many rules, many orders, many legislations. Okay? And all these laws must be in compliance with the Constitution. They must be following the law. They must be following the Constitution. But see, it means every law enacted by the Parliament, must be satisfying two conditions. What are the two conditions? Condition number one is, they must be in accordance with the Constitution. In accordance with the, what is that? Constitution. They shall not be violative of the Constitution. This is point number one. Point number two, they cannot be having conflict with the previous laws. They cannot be having conflict with the previous laws. Got my point? These 2 points are very important. One is, the law enacted by the Parliament shall not be against the Constitution. For example, suppose Motor Vehicle Act is amended, okay, which states that women shall be denied with driving rights. They can't drive the vehicle. If I ban the women, driving of the vehicle by women in a particular law, tell me, is it against the Constitution? Is it in accordance with the Constitution? Against the Constitution. Why? Article 14 says equality before law. Article 14 says equality before law. So it is against the Constitution. Such bill is not good for the Constitution. And second one is, they cannot be having conflict with the, what is that? Previous laws. Cannot be having conflict with the previous laws. For example, you just understand, there is an act called as Right to Information Act. What is that? Right to Information Act. Have you ever any time you have heard about this law? Right to Information Act. This Right to Information Act will empower every individual to demand the information from the government. Because you are the people who elected the government. You are the real owners of the government. Hence you can demand any kind of information. But in 1923, during the British rule, an act was enacted that is called as Official Secrets Act. What is that? Official Secrets Act. Do you know Official Secrets Act is in the existence? Right to Information Act is also in the existence. Official Secret Act says that government cannot disclose certain kinds of information, whereas Right to Information Act says that government has to disclose the information. Can you see the conflict between these two laws? Yes or no? Yes. Okay. In this occasion, government, if it does not solve these problems, these laws can be invalidated by the judiciary, strike down by the judiciary. Judiciary will invalidate these laws. Why? They are against the constitution, and secondly, they are having conflict with the previous laws enacted by the parliament. So in this occasion, who has to provide the expert advice? Attorney General. So it means before the law is enacted, the bill is forwarded to Attorney General. Attorney General will be doing these primary functions. What is the primary function? Whether the law is in accordance with the constitution or not, is there any problem with respect to bill? Such issues are actually identified. He will be recommending the changes. He will also be scrutinizing whether is there any previous laws enacted by the parliament which may be found conflict with the newly enacted legislation. In that occasion also, he will also be suggesting certain corrections. So he is what? Attorney General. Okay, what is his eligibility? He is having equal eligibilities on par with the Supreme Court judge. Okay, whatever the eligibility you must be having to become Supreme Court judge, the same eligibilities must be possessed by the Attorney General. So whatever the knowledge of the Supreme Court judge is having, the same knowledge is held by the Attorney General. Thus he will be helping the governance in a proper manner. Are you able to understand? Right. Did you understand? Yes. This is one. Number two, you go to any court, okay? Half of the cases in the court are pending against the government. For every 100 cases pending in the court, in half of the courts, who is the litigant? Government is the litigant. Suppose my land is there, government comes and it claims it is the government land. There is a conflict between me and government. In this way, there are many disputes between people and government. So half of the cases are related to the government cases. In all these matters at the union level, who will be representing the government? Attorney General. He is the government's advocate. Have you seen this JB movie? Chusara leda JB chudali movies. These reflect the contemporary realities. The society ఏ రకంగా మారుతుంది, ఏ రకంగా మార్పులు వస్తున్నాయి, మనం ఎట్లా ఉన్నాం. ఓకే, అవన్నీ మనం చూడట్లేదు కదా రోజు వెళ్ళి. మూవీ రూపంలో ఏం కనిపిస్తుంది? సొసైటీ మనకు కనిపిస్తుంది. ఎస్ ఆర్ నో? ఎస్. ఆ మూవీలో రావు రమేష్ తెలుసా మీకు? డూ యూ నో రావు రమేష్? అడ్వకేట్ జనరల్గా వస్తాడు, చూసారా? అప్పటి వరకు గవర్నమెంట్ లీడర్ మాట్లాడుతుంటాడు. He could not give sufficient arguments in favor of government. Then who comes into the picture? Advocate General. Okay, Advocate General at the state level, Attorney General at the union level. Advocate General has the eligibility to become High Court Judge. Attorney General has the eligibility to become Supreme Court Judge. So such person is appointed in the executive to guide the executive regarding the constitutional issues. Regarding the constitutional and legal issues, who will be there? Attorney General. Advaitunda? Right. So this is what the composition of the executive. Okay? Right. What point we have written? First point, existence of nominal and real executive. Okay, next point. Next point. Prime Minister and Council of Ministers. Prime Minister and Council of Ministers aid and advise the President. Prime Minister and Council of Ministers, what do they do? Aid and advise the President. This is the second point. Okay? Aid and advise the President. Aid and advise. Okay? President ki salahalu sahakaranni andistarannamata. Aid and advise the President. Okay? Right. Next point. Prime Minister and Council of Ministers. Prime Minister and Council of Ministers are collectively responsible to the Lok Sabha. Okay, Prime Prime Minister and Council of Ministers are collectively responsible to Lok Sabha. Okay, right. Okay. So what does this mean? Lok Sabha is the house, I told you, which controls and monitors the government. Monitors the government. So that is Prime Minister and Council of Ministers are monitored by, what is that? Lok Sabha. It means the Prime Minister and Council of Ministers are answerable to Lok Sabha. They are answerable to Lok Sabha. It means whatever the questions raised by the Lok Sabha members, questions, debates and discussions, okay, these are all should be answered by Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers. Your members of Parliament can raise the questions in the Parliament, questions regarding any particular grievance or seeking the performance report of any ministry. In all these matters, the government needs to be answerable. Okay, and what is that answerability? Individual answerability or collective responsibility? Collective responsibility. Suppose if the Lok Sabha loses the confidence on single minister, the entire Council of Ministers have to resign. Are you able to understand? It is nothing but swimming together and sinking together. తేలితే కలిసి తేలుతారు, మునిగితే కలిసి మునుగుతారు. అందులో అందరూ చస్తే అందరు చేస్తారు, బతికితే అందరు బతుకుతారు. That is what called as swimming together and sinking together. So hence they are collectively responsible to Lok Sabha. Okay, if the Lok Sabha loses the confidence on the Prime Minister and Council of Ministers, entire Prime Minister and Council of Ministers have to resign. That is why they are collectively responsible to Lok Sabha, but they are not collectively responsible to Rajya Sabha. Rajya Sabha is not able to extract the accountability from the government. Which house is able to extract the accountability? Lok Sabha is able to extract the accountability. Okay, next point. Existence of plural executive. What is that existence of? What is that executive? PLURAL, plural executive. Okay, plural executive means what? Executive power is given to group of people but not to the single individual. Okay, right. If you try to compare with American system, okay, in United States of America there is an existence of what is that executive? What is that? Single executive. The executive power is vested with president alone. But here the executive power is vested with the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers. Here the single person takes the decision. Okay, he concludes any decision with his only his with ultimate discretionary power. But here only through process of consultation and deliberation. Got my point? Here the power is given to group of people, and this group of people are supposed to take the decisions only in the collective manner. They have to discuss, they have to share, they have to differ, and eventually they have to take the decision. But in the case of America, president is the ultimate wielder of power. Okay, tell me what is really suitable to the Indian condition, whether single executive is suitable or plural executive is suitable. Plural executive is suitable. Why plural executive is suitable? Because we have multiple cultures and multiple diversities in the country, huge diversity in the country. Okay, if the power is given to the single executive, there is a chance that he may emerge as a dictator. There is a chance that he may try to concentrate every power. He may use the power his own personal benefit. Okay, so hence in India like country, we require to have plural executive but not single executive. This is point number one. Number two, actually in India, if you try to take the Lok Sabha, in Lok Sabha we have reservation system, political reservation. What is that? Political reservation. Seats are reserved in favor of SCs and STs. Okay, SCs and STs according to their population. Okay, suppose if there are 15% of SCs and STs are there, 15% of seats in the Lok Sabha will be reserved for SCs and STs. That's why, can I say Lok Sabha is inclusive or exclusive? Did you understand the point? Whether the Lok Sabha is inclusive chamber or exclusive chamber? inclusive. Why it is inclusive? It is including multiple sections into the house. It is giving guaranteed membership for vulnerable sections in the society. That's why it is very much inclusive. Very much inclusive. And on the same line, because of the plural executive, not only the legislature is becoming inclusive, but also executive is also becoming, what is that? Inclusive. In the parliamentary form of democracy, the very big advantage is you are not only helping the membership of the vulnerable sections in the legislature, you are also giving the accommodation for all the sections in the executive. But it is not possible with respect to presidential system, because there is a single person who will be holding an entire power. So he may be belonging to some dominant community in the country. But here everybody is a partner in the power. If everybody is sharing with the power. For example, in Telangana, we have SC Minister Batti Vikramarka, Deputy Chief Minister. Okay, we have women ministers. Like who is that women minister? Konda Sureka is women minister. And who else is there? Sitaka is there. Okay. ST women, she is also ST women. Sitaka is ST women. BC ministers are there. Ponnam Prabhakar is BC minister. Okay. Likewise, members from different sections are having the representation in the Council of Ministers. That's why Council of Ministers is inclusive. Okay, so that they can hold the power in a responsible manner. Hold the power in a responsible manner. Okay, write down next line. The presidential form of democracy. The presidential form of democracy will help in the election of governments. Will help in the election of governments which are stable. Which are, what is that? Stable. Whereas the parliamentary form of democracy, gives rise to, GIVES, gives rise to responsible executive. What is that? Responsible executive. Did you get my point? So American democracy is what? Stable executive. Indian democracy is what? Responsible executive. What is lacking in American democracy? Responsibility. What is lacking in Indian democracy? Stability. Okay. Why stability is lacking? Because anytime the Lok Sabha can remove the government. Anytime the Lok Sabha can remove the government. As easy as drinking the water. అర్థమవుతుందా? మన నీళ్ళు ఎంత సులభంగా తాగుతామో అంత సులభంగా ప్రభుత్వాన్ని ఏం చేయొచ్చు? లోక్సభ తీసేయచ్చు. But that is not possible in the case of American democracy. You need to follow a special procedure called as impeachment motion with respect to the President of America. అర్థమవుతుందా? But Indian democracy is responsible. Responsible because for every activity this is answerable to Lok Sabha. And individually or collectively, both individually as well as collectively. So you are emphasizing upon collective responsibility. Okay, your fellow minister commits any corruption, you can't say it is his business, it is my business. You can't say this. You can't distance yourself from the fellow minister. You are also hold responsible. You also hold responsible for the wrong that is committed by your fellow minister. Got my point? This is what called as responsible government. This is what called as stable government. Okay, right. Next point. Features of parliamentary form of democracy. Right. Next. Dissolution of Lok Sabha. Dissolution of Lok Sabha or lower house. Dissolution of Lok Sabha or lower house is also feature. Okay. Dissolution of Lok Sabha or lower house before the completion of tenure. Before the completion of tenure. That is what also feature of the, what is that? Parliamentary form of democracy. Okay. Right. Next point. The leadership of, next point. Now tell me, who dissolves the Lok Sabha? President. Who dissolves the Lok Sabha? President. On whose advice the President dissolves the Lok Sabha? Prime Minister and Council of Ministers. In 2018, Telangana State Legislative Assembly elections were conducted. Okay, before the completion of full tenure. Actually, government was elected for 5 years, but before completion of the 5th year, Chief Minister and Council of Ministers advised the governor to dissolve the State Legislative Assembly. Because State Legislative Assembly and Lok Sabha are similar. The way you are treating the Lok Sabha at the union level, on the same fashion, the State Legislative Assembly is also elected. Okay, got my point? You can equate Lok Sabha and State Legislative Assembly. State Legislative Assembly was dissolved by governor on the advice of the Chief Minister and Council of Ministers before the completion of the tenure. Then now tell me, what is the consideration must be in front of the President or Governor before the Lok Sabha or State Legislative Assembly are dissolved? అర్థమవుతుందా? లోక్ సభ డిజాల్వ్ చేయమని చెప్పేసి ప్రైమ్ మినిస్టర్ అడ్వైజ్ చేశారు. అందరికి తెలుగు వచ్చా? ఓకే, ఎస్, కెన్ యూ అండర్స్టాండ్ తెలుగు? ఓకే. ఎందుకు మాట్లాడుతున్నా అంటే తెలుగులో, నేను ఇంగ్లీష్లోనే మాట్లాడాలనుకోండి ఒక మోనోటోనీ వచ్చేస్తుంది. మోనోటోనీ అంటే నిద్ర వచ్చేస్తుంది, ఇంకెప్పుడు టైం అయిపోతుంది అని చూస్తూ ఉంటారు. ఇవన్నీ ఉంటాయి, డీవియేషన్స్ అండ్ డిస్ట్రాక్షన్స్. ఓకే, సో మీన్ వైల్ ఇన్ ద మిడిల్ ఐ నీడ్ టు స్పీక్ ఇన్ తెలుగు. ఓకే, రైట్. ఇప్పుడు చూడండి, ప్రైమ్ మినిస్టర్ అండ్ కౌన్సిల్ ఆఫ్ మినిస్టర్స్ వెళ్ళి ప్రెసిడెంట్తో చెప్తారు, సార్ డిసాల్వ్ చేసేయండి అని. మనకి జాతిరత్న మూవీలో హీరోయిన్ అంటారు కదా, ఇచ్చేయండి సార్ బెయిల్ ఇచ్చేసేయండి అంటారు కదా, ఆ టైప్ అనమాట. ఓకే, then president automatically dissolves? Yes, the moment he receives the message from prime minister and council of ministers. Is he supposed to dissolve the Lok Sabha automatically? No, he has to apply his discretion. What is the discretion? That is called a situational discretion. What is the discretion called? Situational discretion. Discretion means what? What is discretion? Discretion means what? Independent application of mind is called as discretion. అర్థమవుతుందా? డిస్క్రిషన్ అంటే ఏంటి? ఇండిపెండెంట్ అప్లికేషన్ ఆఫ్ మైండ్. వెదర్ షుడ్ ఐ డూ దిస్ ఆర్ నాట్, ఇఫ్ ఐఎమ్ యూజింగ్ మై మైండ్, మై ఒపీనియన్, దట్ ఈస్ కాల్డ్ as discretion. What is this discretion? You know, he will simply see whether this government is enjoying the majority in the Lok Sabha or not. If the government enjoys the majority in Lok Sabha, the opinion of the Prime Minister and Council of Ministers is valid. If they don't enjoy the majority in Lok Sabha, their opinion may not be followed by the President. Okay, so this is how the President enjoys the situational discretion. But end of the day, in the parliamentary form of democracy, there will be a scope for the dissolution of the Lok Sabha. Dissolution of the Lok Sabha. Okay, next point. Okay, right, next point. Leadership of Prime Minister. Leadership of Prime Minister. Leadership of the Prime Minister in the Lok Sabha. Leadership of Prime Minister in the Lok Sabha. Okay, right. What does this leadership means? What is this leadership? I told you already, who is the head of the Lok Sabha, who presides over the Lok Sabha? Speaker. Speaker conducts the Lok Sabha sessions. All the matters of the Lok Sabha are ultimately decided by Speaker. Got my point? The conductor, the business, the debates and discussions, these are all facilitated by the Speaker. But you understand, Speaker needs to be respected by every member of the House. Speaker's matter, Speaker's reputation, Speaker's prestige, Speaker's office dignity need to be protected by every member of the Lok Sabha. Got my point? No member can be individually faulting the Speaker. That is what the basic decorum the individual member is required to follow on the floor of the House. But any member is showing a kind of a unruly behavior. What is that kind of behavior? Unruly behavior, a kind of a indisciplined behavior in the House. In that occasion, Speaker will become helpless. Speaker will become helpless. Then who will come to the rescue of the Speaker? Leader of the House. Who is that? Leader of the House. Got my point? Who is the leader of the House? The leader of the majority members in the House. The leader of the majority members in the House is called as leader of the House. Leader of the minority members in the House is called as leader of opposition. అర్థమవుతుందా మీకు పాయింట్? హౌస్లో ఉన్న మెజారిటీ మెంబర్స్ ఉంటారు కదా, మెజారిటీ మెంబర్స్ అంటే ఎవరు? మోర్ దాన్ 50% ఆఫ్ ది స్ట్రెంత్ ఆఫ్ ది హౌస్ ఈస్ కాల్డ్ as మెజారిటీ మెంబర్స్. లీడర్ ఆఫ్ సచ్ మెంబర్స్ ఈస్ కాల్డ్ as లీడర్ ఆఫ్ ది హౌస్. లీడర్ ఆఫ్ ది మైనారిటీ మెంబర్స్ ఈస్ కాల్డ్ as లీడర్ ఆఫ్ అపోజిషన్. Then who will come at the rescue of the speaker? Leader of the house. Leader of the house will be proposing a resolution or motion. Resolution or motion. What is a motion means? It is a collective opinion of the house is called as motion. What is that? Collective opinion of the house is called as motion. అర్థమవుతుందా? లేదా తెలుగులో ఏమంటారు అంటే తీర్మానం అంటారు. ఏమంటారు? తీర్మానం. ఓకే, the collective opinion of the house is motion. Then leader of the house will be proposing the motion in front of the house. ఏమని? Let us suspend this member for these many days. Okay, if that motion is placed, if the motion takes the majority member support, the member will be suspended from the rest of the sessions. అర్థమవుతుందా? అంటే what is the possibility of the acceptance of the motion by the house? High or low? High, because majority members are in support of the leader of the house. Naturally, whatever the opinion of the leader of the house, that can be taken for granted in the house in the form of resolutions or motions. అర్థమవుతుందా? చూడండి, స్పీకర్ని కాపాడుకునేది ఎవరు? లీడర్ ఆఫ్ ది హౌస్. స్పీకర్ని కాపాడుకునేది సభ్యులే. ద వెరీ మెంబర్స్ ఆఫ్ ది హౌస్ విల్ బి ప్రొటెక్టింగ్ ద స్పీకర్. బట్ హూ ఈస్ టేకింగ్ సచ్ లీడర్షిప్? లీడర్ ఆఫ్ ది హౌస్. Okay, in the parliamentary form of democracy, usually prime minister will act as a leader of the house in the house in which he is member. అంటే ఏ హౌస్లో ప్రైమ్ మినిస్టర్ సభ్యుడిగా ఉంటాడో ఆ హౌస్లో లీడర్ ఆఫ్ ది హౌస్గా ఎవరు ఉంటారో? ప్రైమ్ మినిస్టర్. దట్స్ వై ఇన్ లోక్సభ నరేంద్ర మోడీ ఈజ్ ద మెంబర్. దట్స్ వై హూ ఈస్ ద లీడర్ ఆఫ్ ది హౌస్ ఇన్ లోక్సభ? మోడీ హిమ్సెల్ఫ్ ఈజ్ ద లీడర్ ఆఫ్ ది హౌస్. బట్ ఇన్ ద రాజ్యసభ హూ ఈస్ ద లీడర్ ఆఫ్ ది హౌస్? నో, చైర్పర్సన్ ఈజ్ ద ప్రిసైడింగ్ ఆఫీసర్. Who is the leader of the house? Any minister who is nominated by prime minister. అంటే ప్రైమ్ మినిస్టర్ ద్వారా నామినేట్ చేయబడిన ఏ మినిస్టర్ అయితే రాజ్యసభలో మెంబర్గా ఉంటారో దట్ పర్సన్ విల్ బి యాక్టింగ్ యాజ్ ద లీడర్ ఆఫ్ ది హౌస్ ఇన్ రాజ్యసభ. ఎన్ని మినిస్టర్స్ ఉన్నా, ఎంతమంది ఉన్నా, ప్రైమ్ మినిస్టర్ ఎవరిని చూజ్ చేసుకుంటే వాళ్ళే లీడర్ ఆఫ్ ది హౌస్ అవుతారు. ఓకే, ఎస్, ఓకే, రైట్. నౌ హూ ఇస్ ద లీడర్ ఆఫ్ ది హౌస్ ఇన్ రాజ్యసభ? పీయూష్ గోయల్, రైల్వే మినిస్టరా? ఎస్ సార్, నో? ఓకే, పీయూష్ గోయల్ ఈజ్ లీడర్ ఆఫ్ ది హౌస్ ఇన్ రాజ్యసభ. అర్థమైందా మీకు కాన్సెప్ట్? ఎస్. మీకు ఎక్కడైనా డౌట్స్ ఉంటే మీరు హ్యాపీగా రైజ్ చేయొచ్చు. ఐఎమ్ వెరీ మచ్ ఓపెన్ పర్సన్. యూ కెన్ రైజ్ ఎనీ కన్సర్న్ ఆర్ ఎనీ డౌట్ ఇన్ ద క్లాస్. ఐ కెన్ ఈజీలీ సాల్వ్ యువర్ క్వశ్చన్స్ ఆర్ డౌట్స్. ఓకే, ఎస్ సార్, నో? అర్థమైంది అందరికీ డిస్కషన్? ఓకే, సో మీరు ఇంకా కమింగ్ డేస్లో ఇంకా చాలా చాలా కొత్త పాయింట్స్ నేర్చుకుంటారు. మీరు ఇప్పుడు వరకు మీరు ఏం చదివారో ఏం చేశారో నాకు తెలియదు. యూ మైట్ హ్యావ్ గాన్ త్రూ లక్ష్మీకాంత్ ఆర్ ఎనీ బుక్, బట్ అవర్ అప్రోచ్ విల్ బి కంప్లీట్లీ డిఫరెంట్. ఇట్ ఈస్ ఎగ్జామినేషన్ ఓరియంటెడ్. ఓకేనా? నేను టాపిక్ వైజ్ అయిపోయిన తర్వాత మీకు కొన్ని మెయిన్స్ క్వశ్చన్స్ ఇస్తూ ఉంటా ఫ్రమ్ ద బిగినింగ్. ఓకే, మీరు ఏం చేయాలి? దానికి ఆన్సర్స్ రాసే ప్రయత్నం చేయాలి. ఓకేనా? అయితే ఎగ్జామినేషన్ ట్రెండ్ మారుతుంది మీరు గమనిస్తే. అంటే 2011-12లో ఆ టైంలోని ఎగ్జామ్స్ వేరు, ఇప్పుడు పెట్టే ఎగ్జామ్స్ వేరు. ఇప్పుడు ఎలా అయిపోయిందంటే ఇదివరకు ప్రిలిమ్స్ ప్రిపరేషన్ వేరు, మెయిన్స్ ప్రిపరేషన్ వేరు. బోత్ ప్రిపరేషన్స్ ఆర్ డిఫరెంట్. కానీ ఇప్పుడు ఏమైపోయింది? యూ నీడ్ టు ప్రిపేర్ ఫర్ మెయిన్స్ ఫస్ట్, అటెంప్ట్ ఫర్ ద ప్రిలిమ్స్ లేటర్. ఎందుకంటే ఎగ్జామినేషన్లో అడిగే క్వశ్చన్స్ అంత కాంప్లెక్స్గా ఒపీనియన్ ఓరియంటేషన్లో ఉన్నాయి. కాబట్టి యూ నీడ్ టు హ్యావ్ ఏ క్లియర్ కంప్లీట్ స్కిల్స్ ఆఫ్ అనాలిసిస్. అనాలిసిస్ దేని ద్వారా వస్తుంది? మెయిన్స్ ఆన్సర్ రైటింగ్ ద్వారా వస్తుంది. ఎస్ ఆర్ నో? ఎస్. కాబట్టి ఇప్పుడు సపోజ్ ఫీచర్స్ హ్యావ్ బీన్ కంప్లీటెడ్ అనుకోండి, దెన్ ఐ విల్ గివ్ యూ మెయిన్స్ రిలేటెడ్ క్వశ్చన్ 2-3 క్వశ్చన్స్ ఇస్తా. దానికి మీరు ఆన్సర్స్ రాసుకోండి. అలా ప్రతి ఒక బుక్ పెట్టుకోండి, ఒక వర్క్ బుక్ పెట్టుకొని ఆన్సర్స్ రాసే ప్రయత్నం చేయండి. మనకు మెంటర్స్ ఉంటారు. మనకి ఇక్కడ వీ హ్యావ్ మెంటర్స్ హియర్. యూ అప్రోచ్ ద మెంటర్స్ విత్ యువర్ ఆన్సర్స్. దే విల్ కరెక్ట్ యూ అండ్ దే విల్ గైడ్ యూ. ఓకేనా? రైట్. అయినా మీకు అర్థం కాకపోతే యూ కెన్ కమ్ టు మీ. ఎస్, ఓకే, దిస్ ఈస్ వాట్. Right? Thank you.